I'm Janae. I live in San Francisco, and I have just accepted a role at Management Leadership for Tomorrow as the Senior Director of Talent Placement and Program Operations.
Woohoo! And fun fact for those watching, Janae and I go way back from our days at Facebook slash Meta. We transitioned while we were there, yeah. So Janae, would you mind, obviously in addition to us knowing each other, but just talk to us kind of about what was happening in your job search or in your career that made you want to reach out for some help?
Yeah, so at the end of 2022, I believe, I was laid off from Meta and took some time off, traveled, did a lot of things, read a book, and got to a point where I needed to find a job really quickly. And I did, but I wound up in a job that was not the best fit for me culturally or in terms of career growth and what I wanted to be doing in my career. And I was just feeling really stuck. I'd been in that role for about 6 months and knew that it wasn't the right fit. I'd still actively been applying to things, but just like wasn't getting any traction. So it was starting to become kind of discouraging when you've applied to, 50 to 100 jobs and you're getting no responses, let alone like no interviews or like even any bites. So I think that was the impetus for me to start looking for help and seeking out, what I could do to make myself a more attractive candidate.
Love it, love it. And I'm sorry, obviously, that you had a terrible experience at that company that you went to. But you kind of called this out yourself. But taking that pause and understanding kind of what you want, and why, and like where am I going wrong to help that kind of diagnose that. It sounded like it was important to you. What about as you were okay? So then you had identified that you needed help. What was important to you as you were kind of evaluating options and like who to partner with as your coaching partner, and what ultimately led you to choose Career?
Yeah, so that's kind of an easy question, mostly because I did not do a ton of looking around. AJ, as you mentioned, you and I go way back. You were a very trusted advisor and mentor when I was at Meta, in addition to being my HRBP. And so when I saw that you started Career Amp and your business with the Human Reach, I thought, okay, this is someone who I know and whose work I know and whose ethics I know. And so you felt like the obvious choice for someone to reach out to. I think that was kind of a very quick decision on my part because I knew I was stuck and I knew I needed help. And you have always been, wonderful support and always given me great career advice. So I figured, of course, this makes sense.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And I look back at our time at Facebook very fondly. I remember like several occasions with like you and Hyla and some of those other folks just having like amazing times together in like offsites and one-on-ones. And so I join you in looking back on our time together fondly. So thank you for trusting me and thanks for coming back into Career to help in this next chapter for you. Okay, so next question is, what would you consider your biggest win inside the program? So obviously you have an offer, which we're and starting a new gig, which we're so thrilled and so excited for you regarding. So would you consider that your biggest win, or would you consider it something else, or both, or what would you say?
So the offer is the obvious win. The less obvious win was getting super clear on what I wanted in my career and what was important to me. So in one of my first calls with Stephanie, we had a conversation just about like really understanding what my values were, what my priorities were. Was it the money? Was it being a people manager? Was it the type of organization, that I wanted to work in? And I hadn't really thought about it in that way before. And so that process of just getting really clear on what my goals were made me more able to laser focus on what I wanted and what I didn't want. And I think even just knowing what I didn't want was a huge eye opener in terms of knowing like, okay, I know that I'm in a role right now that is not going to work for me long term. And so being able to pivot and be super clear on what I should be looking for and what would be the right fit came a little bit more easily after that conversation. So I think that was probably one of the biggest wins. The other thing that I'll call out is just the support with resume writing and LinkedIn. I was blown away by by what your team was able to do with my resume and my LinkedIn. Like I know it's all stuff that I did, but just the way that it was formatted, the wording, it was so above and beyond anything I think I could have like come up with on my own. And I needed that boost. And I think that it actually boosted my confidence to see how my accomplishments were sort of laid out in that way. And that made me feel more ready for, interviews, for conversations that I had with potential new employers in a way that I just don't think I had before. So yeah, I think the resume and LinkedIn help was a huge confidence boost. And the prioritization exercise really gave me just a lot of clarity on what I wanted. And ultimately, I don't think I would have gotten this awesome role that I'm so excited about now without either of those things. So I'd say it's equal, but yeah, the offer is definitely a result of those first two things.
For sure, for sure. And I think you called out something that's so poignant, which is like oftentimes when we're thinking about what we want to do next, we get like paralyzed over, I've done so many things in my career. I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And then we start looking like a generalist. And we start looking like we could do a whole bunch of different things. And so not only is that confusing to somebody across the desk, right? You've been a recruiter, you know how that is.
Yeah.
It's confusing to you, but it's also confusing to yourself in terms of what you want to be doing. And so to help decipher that, I'm so glad that you were able to land on a pathway that not only felt good in your bones in terms of what you wanted to do next and this pivot that you wanted to make, but also that you were branding yourself in that way so that you started to attract those types of we call it specialists, the specialist types of roles versus casting a wider net. So that's so great.
Yeah, exactly. I feel really just fortunate to be able to now be in a role that's so aligned with my values, and getting clear on my values was the first step in that.
Heck yeah. Love it. Okay, cool. Last question here is if someone's watching our conversation right now and they're on the fence on whether or not they want to join Career Amp, what would you tell them?
I would say it's an investment in your future, and a really good one. If you're not sure, I feel like the team at the Human Reach and Career Amp are so great in terms of just explaining, all the steps, what it entails, what is the support that they're going to offer you, and also what work you're going to put in. And I do think that like it's a two-way street. But I am so grateful that this is an opportunity that I decided to take, an investment that I decided to make in myself. So I would just encourage anybody who's thinking about it to at least have the conversation, and see, what's possible, because it's not something you're going to regret, putting time and effort into yourself and into your own career development. And AJ, I actually want to go back to something that I think you said to me many years ago, which is that nobody's going to care about your career development more than you do. And so I think that this was exactly the step that I needed to take, and was the investment that I needed to make in myself to get where I want to go. So I think that's true. And that applies for anybody who's maybe feeling a little stuck or not sure what to do next. Like, that clarity is something that you'll carry with you, and it's so valuable.
Yes, that phrase has been a guiding light in my life forever and ever, and that is music to my ears that you remember us talking about that. That's super cool. All right, friend. Anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
No, just thank you so much. I really appreciate you, AJ, and it's nice to see you. So keep doing your great work with your great team. I really have loved everybody that I've interacted with, at your company, and just really glad that we got to do this. So thank you again.
Likewise.